Today we learned about sales tax and tips, something that we work with on a daily basis when we go to the store and buy something. So today we're going to learn how to find sales tax and total cost of an item, and also we're going to learn how to find tips. In our book, we also find that our book explains how to do markups, but we're going to save that for tomorrow. Okay, so let's get into this. So a sales tax is an additional amount of money charged on items people buy. So whenever you go to Target and you buy a pack of pencils for 99 cents, you notice you pay around $1.08, $1.09. Those 9 cents are tax. Now, tip and gratuity is a small amount of money in return for a service. So say you go to a restaurant, a nice sit down where they serve you, you get your bill, $50, you end up leaving a tip. Typically people leave around 18 to 20% of their bill as tip. And you're typically looking at the amount of money charged before tax whenever you tip your waiter. Alright, so let's learn how to calculate these things. So again, we know that, let me go back to the vocabulary. A sales tax is a percent of the price added to the price and we know that a tip or gratuity is a percent of the bill before tax added to the bill. Okay, so we go into our first example. A limited edition soccer ball costs $30 and the sales tax is 6%. What is the total cost? So when I'm calculating a tax, I know that our tax is going to equal to the percent of the price. Now, if I need to calculate my total cost, meaning what the cash register is going to ring out, it's going to ask, that's going to be the price plus tax. Okay, so in other words, 100% of the item plus whatever percent tax is being added on. So there are two ways to calculate this. We're going to learn two methods. Alright, for some of the examples I'll show how to do both methods, and then you can choose which method is most comfortable to you. So method one, we're going to break this down into two parts. In method one, we're going to first calculate our tax. So the first part we want to know is, what is our tax? So we know that our tax is 6% of 30. So we're looking for a part of 30. Now you could set up a proportion. I'm going to go with the percent equation. So I know that my tax, which is my part, is going to equal to 0.06 multiplied by my whole, okay, which is 30. So in this case, my tax is going to be equal to, 1.8 or $1.80. So then the next thing I need to do is calculate my total cost, which again is going to be equal to my price plus tax. So in this case, the price was $30 plus 1.8, so the total cost is going to be equal to $31.80. Now that's the first method. The second method, method two, in method two, we look at our percents as being 1% total. So in method two, I think about this as my total cost is going to be equal to 100% of the price plus whatever my tax amount is. Well, in that case, I know my total cost is going to be equal to 100% plus 6%. Well, that means that I'm going to be paying 106% of the total cost. Okay, so in that case, I know I'm paying for my cost, or my total cost is going to be equal to 106% of 30. Well, when I go ahead and I do 106% of 30, I actually get straight to 31.80, and I find that my total cost is equal to $31.80. So I get to my answer more quickly, okay? So let's try another example. So this was total cost. Now we're going to look at tip, okay? Whitney's bill at a diner came to $26. What would she pay if she included a 20% tip? So again, tip is going to be the same kind of calculation as tax. All right, so if Whitney's bill at the diner came up to $26 and we want to pay 20%, again, we have two options, the two methods that we can use. Method one is going to say, okay, let me calculate my tip first, and my tip is going to be 20% of my bill. Okay, so in order to calculate my tip, that's going to be 0.2 multiplied by 26, which is going to be equal to 5.2, or $5.20. Let me write that 2 more clearly. So my total cost in this case, or how much she's going to pay in total, is going to be my original $26 bill plus my $5.20 tip, which is going to be equal to $31.20. So that's how much she needs to leave with the waiter. Now, method two is going to ask to figure out, well, what percent in full of $26 am I going to pay? So I know that my total cost is going to be equal to 100% of the bill plus my tip, which is 20% of the bill. Because we always calculate our tip and our tax on the bill before adding a tip or a tax. So I know that my total cost is going to be 120% of 26. Well, in order to calculate that, my total cost then becomes 1.2 multiplied by 26, which is going to be equal to 31.20. So in other words, I get back to the same answer of it's $31.20 total. Okay, and this is not including tax. So typically when you go to a restaurant, you do pay tip and tax. So let's look at an example of what that looks like. It's also the same for manicures and haircuts and all kinds of services where you have someone helping you out. You typically want to tip that person. So let's get manicures. A manicure costs $18. The sales tax is 8.25%. You want to tip 20%. Is $22 sufficient to cover the manicure, tax, and tip? And we want to explain. So again, we're going to have two methods here, but this time we're paying 2 percentages above our $18. So the first thing I need to figure out is, what is my tax and tip percentage combined? Well, I know that my tax is 8.25%, and I know that my tip is 20%. So together, I know I'm adding an additional 28.25% to my bill. So I want to know if 22 is going to be sufficient, which means enough. Okay, so let's try method one. Method one is going to ask, well, what's my tax and tip going to be? Well, that's going to be 28.25% of $18. So in other words, I'm going to have to calculate 0.2825 multiplied by 18. That's going to be equal to 5.085. So whenever I go to calculate my total cost, that's going to be 18 plus 5.0, and I'm going to round this up to 5.09 because we always know that we go to the hundredth place when we're talking about money, because this is our dollars and this is our 10 cents, 10 quarters, what have you, and this is where I have my pennies, okay, my hundredths. So that being said, my final cost here is going to be equal to $23.09. So I actually know that I don't have enough money for this manicure. Okay, so no, because 2309 is greater than 22. So you don't have sufficient money to cover this. Now if you use method 2, for method 2, you know that your total cost is going to be equal to 100% of your bill plus that 28.25%, which means when all is said and done, you're paying 128. That didn't come out the way I wanted it to. You're going to be paying 128.25% of that $18. So to calculate that, we're going to multiply for our total cost 1.2825 by 18, which is going to give us 2309, which again goes back to the same answer of no, we don't have enough money for this manicure, because 2309 is much bigger than 22 when you're talking about do you have enough money to purchase this service. All right, so let's go to our problem of the day. For tomorrow, you have to calculate the total cost of getting a $100 dinner with a 20% tip, no tax to worry about, and a $12 book with 8.5% sales tax. All right, so 2 simple problems of the day. We'll talk about these tomorrow. Have a great night.